watching News 25. Local coverage you can count on. News 25 is brought to you by J.K. Nelson Law, voted best of Pahrump for 4 years. Give them a call, 775-727-9900. News 25 is also brought to you by Gunny's Air Conditioning and Heating. New, service, and repair. Call Gunny's, 775-727-6800.
Thank you for joining us here on News 25 and Ace Country Radio, and now streaming at KPVM.TV. I'm David Preston on this Tuesday, January 23rd. The death toll for Palestinians has risen over 25,000, and a strike from Hamas today leaves 21 Israeli soldiers dead.
On January 21st, the death toll for Palestinians in the Israel-Hamas war reached over 25,000. The death toll specifically became 25,105 Palestinians killed and 62,681 wounded, according to the Gaza Health Ministry, which does not differentiate between combatant and civilian deaths. However, 2 days later, on January 23rd, the number rose again to 25,490. It was also reported that 2/3 of the number of deaths belong to women and children. The overall amount is believed to be higher, however, due to the bodies trapped underneath rubble in areas medics cannot reach. On January 23rd, Hamas militants struck Israeli forces in an attack that left 21 Israeli soldiers dead. According to reports, they died from a blast that came from a rocket-propelled grenade, which had triggered explosives that Israeli soldiers were preparing in order to demolish buildings near the Mackay refugee camp. The blast caused the buildings to collapse onto the soldiers. This has raised Israel's death toll to 271 in regards to the country's soldiers. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu mourned the loss and has vowed to press ahead in the war until they reach absolute victory. He went on to state that, "We are in the middle of a war that is more than justified. In this war, we are making big achievements, like the encircling of Khan Yunis, and there are also very heavy losses. However, Israeli citizens are starting to become more and more divided in regards to the war, especially for those whose family members still remain in captivity by Hamas." According to reports, Israeli officials have begun to believe that Netanyahu's goals of complete victory and the return of the remaining hostages might be mutually exclusive. A member of Israel's war cabinet, Gadi Eisenkot, believes that the only way to free any more hostages would be through a ceasefire. However, with both Netanyahu and far-right partners within his coalition continuing to push forward with the war, the proposal of a new ceasefire agreement becomes more and more elusive. Even so, the United States has joined the call for Israel to scale back its offensive and agree to a path for the creation of a Palestinian state after the war. Currently, Palestine only has 2 territories to its name, one being the Gaza Strip and the other being the West Bank. However, Netanyahu has recently spoken against the idea of a Palestinian state and has reportedly stated that Israel will need to expand its operations and eventually take over the Gaza side of the border with Egypt. This area is where an exorbitant number of Palestinians fled to and remained sheltered in overflowing UN shelters. Dia Rashwan, who is the head of Egypt's State Information Service, responded to this, stating that should Israel make any move to occupy the border area, it would lead to a serious threat to the relation between both countries.
One Pahrump man is arrested after he reportedly was caught using a controlled substance on the street. On January 22nd, Nye County Sheriff's Office responded to a report of a person allegedly smoking methamphetamine on the sidewalk in front of CVS here in Pahrump. Upon deputies' arrival to the scene, they made contact with a man later identified as Orlando Sanchez. Officers asked Orlando to get up where he was laying down so he could speak to them. Orlando was slow to get up, and as he attempted to, it appeared that he was concealing items under his blanket, according to the declaration of arrest. While officers spoke with Orlando, they noticed a straw with burnt residue and a broken pipe used to smoke meth. Officers told Orlando again to get up and drop his sandwich, but Orlando allegedly continued to stall. Officers then grabbed Orlando and placed him in front of their patrol car to detain him, but he allegedly continued to tense up and would not place his hands behind his back. Deputies then put Orlando on their hood, but again he continued to resist and not place his hands behind his back, according to the arrest report. One officer then guided him to the ground to gain control of Orlando and place his hands behind his back. Upon officers' search of where Orlando was laying down, they found a glass pipe in a small baggie containing white crystal-like substance, according to the report. The substance was recognized to be methamphetamine. 4 glass pipes were also found where Orlando was laying down. Per the declaration, Orlando stated that he only smoked a little bit and asked the deputies to break the glass meth pipes. The presumed methamphetamine was later weighed at less than 0.1 grams and tested presumptive positive for methamphetamine. Orlando also consented to a blood draw and was transported to the Nye County Detention Center, where he was booked on the following charges: possessing a Scheduled 1 and 2 controlled substance, less than 14 grams, resisting a public peace officer, possessing drug paraphernalia, using or under the influence of a controlled substance. Jackie Rosen met with the president of University of Nevada, Reno, and the U.S. Secretary of Commerce to speak about a potential idea of Nevada becoming a lithium leader in the United States.
On January 18th, U.S. Senator Jackie Rosen hosted a meeting with the U.S. Secretary of Commerce Gina Raimondo and the University of Nevada, Reno President Brian Sandoval in order to discuss several topics. These topics included leveraging UNR's research on wildfire forecasting, addressing broadband permitting challenges in northern Nevada, and securing Phase 2 Tech Hub funding for Nevada in order to strengthen America's lithium supply chain. The last topic is in regards to the Tech Hub's program, which was authorized by the Bipartisan Chips and Science Act. This act invests directly into high-potential U.S. regions and aims to transform them into globally competitive innovation centers. Senator Rosen went on to state that Northern Nevada has the potential to be a global lithium leader, powering our state's clean energy future. Brian Sandoval also spoke on the matter, stating that the University of Nevada, Reno, is uniquely positioned to help Nevada's key industries develop and grow into worldwide leaders. This includes providing academic and research areas in the development of energy-efficient technologies over the next several years.
We will be back with more news on the other side of this break.
You're watching News 25. Local coverage you can count on.
And welcome back to News 25. A local man runs from Nye County Sheriff deputies on his ATV after he reportedly broke some traffic laws. Anthony Roberts has the details.
At approximately 3:25 p.m. on January 21st, deputies observed an adult male without a helmet operating a red four-wheeler traveling westbound on the shoulder of Highway 372 near Linda Street. According to the report, when the male saw the patrol vehicle, he immediately made a U-turn onto Highway 372, illegally crossing lanes of traffic southbound into the desert at high speeds. Deputies activated their sirens and attempted to catch the suspect in the desert. The driver left the desert westbound onto Chipmunk Road before stopping. The male was identified as Benji Crawford. According to the declaration, Crawford was taken into custody for attempting to elude officers. During the search of the lawful arrest, deputies allegedly discovered 2 plastic baggies containing a crystal-like substance, 1 black cylinder container that was filled with a brown gummy substance, 4 baggies filled with a white powder, and 1 bag containing blue pills, as well as a large amount of money, which was found in Crawford's wallet. A NIC test was conducted and confirmed that Crawford was in possession of methamphetamine, cocaine, heroin, and alprazolam, which is also known as Xanax. Benji was transported to the Nye County Detention Center, where he was booked for 1 count of attempting to sell or transport a Schedule 3, 4, or 5 controlled substance, 3 counts of attempting to sell or transport a Schedule 1 or 2 controlled substance, 4 counts of possession to sell a Schedule 1 and 2 controlled substance, and 1 count of disobeying a peace officer.
The FAA is advising of airspace restrictions over Las Vegas around Super Bowl 58. Mikey Ruhan has this story.
General aviation pilots flying near Las Vegas from February 7th through the 12th, 2024 must be aware of temporary flight restrictions and comply with the additional operation requirements that will be in effect for Super Bowl 58. The FAA will issue a notice to air missions later in January about the procedures for the game and specific arrival and departure route requirements. Information about Las Vegas area airports and airspace is available on the FAA's Super Bowl webpage, which will be regularly updated as additional information becomes available. Special air traffic procedures to minimize delays and ensure safety will be in effect for the following airports: Las Vegas Harry Reid International Airport, North Las Vegas Airport, Henderson Executive Airport, and Boulder City Airport. The FAA will publish a temporary flight restriction for Super Bowl 58 centered on Allegiant Stadium. The FAA expects the TFR will be active from 2:30 to 8:30 p.m. local time on Sunday, February 11th. The TFR will have a 10 nautical mile inner core and a 30 nautical mile outer ring. The game will begin at approximately 3:30 p.m. local time. The TFR will not affect regularly scheduled commercial flights in and out of Las Vegas Harry Reid International Airport. Emergency medical, public safety, and military aircraft may enter the TFR in coordination with air traffic control. Super Bowl 58 also is a no-drone zone as a designated national security special event. Additional unmanned aircraft restrictions will be in place before, during, and after the game.
Brightline West has been awarded $2.5 billion in funding by the U.S. Department of Transportation in order to create the high-speed rail line that will connect Las Vegas and Southern California. R.J. Camacho has more on this story.
On January 23rd, it was announced that federal transportation officials have approved $2.5 billion in private activity bonds for the Brightline West high-speed train that would connect both Las Vegas and Southern California. This is in addition to the $3 billion that was previously announced for the project, according to the U.S. Transportation Department. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg went on to state that the Biden-Harris administration takes the next step to fulfill the promise of high-speed rail in the American West, with $2.5 billion in private activity bond authority to lay tracks, create jobs, and connect American cities. The proposed high-speed rail line that connects Southern California to Las Vegas is to mainly run through the Interstate 15 corridor. The rail line would connect Las Vegas with stations in both Apple Valley, Hesperia, and Rancho Cucamonga, California. The Las Vegas station is to be located near the Las Vegas Strip, just north of Blue Diamond Road between the I-15 and Las Vegas Boulevard. Founder and chairman of Brightline, Wes Edens, thanked the Department of Transportation for placing their confidence in the company. Additionally, he stated that connecting Las Vegas and Southern California will provide widespread public benefits to both states, creating thousands of jobs and jumpstarting a new level of economic competitiveness of the region.
Here is Valley Electric with a message to educate us about voltage and safety measures that residents should keep in mind if they are ever near or around a live primary voltage line that may have fallen to the ground.
This segment of News 25 is brought to you by Valley Electric and its family of companies focused on serving our members. We're better together.
Today we're going to talk about the difference in voltages that we have at Valley Electric. So we have what's called a primary voltage. That's the voltage that feeds into your transformer that comes out of our substations. That primary voltage is on wire that's uninsulated. A few years ago, NRECA did a survey of electrical cooperatives and asked their members some questions about some safety questions, and they asked them about the insulation of wire, and 50% of the members responded that they thought that primary wire was insulated. So we just want you to know that none of our primary wire is insulated. It's bare conductor, and so if you touch it, if you contact it, if it falls on the ground, that's going to create a fall or a hazardous situation in every case. And that's the reason we got to put it up on really tall poles, or we got to put it underground, because we have to keep it inaccessible to the public. Our secondary wire You might hear that term. That's what comes from the secondary side of the transformer into your house. And it might come from a pad mount, or it may come from an overhead transformer. If it comes from overhead, it's going to be insulated. There will be 3 wires. 2 of them will be insulated, and 1 of them is the neutral, and it's uninsulated. You can feel a lot safer with that. The voltage there is only 240, 120 and 240. In some industrial applications, it might be 480, but it's lower voltage, and so you can insulate it safely. There's no way to insulate this primary voltage unless we go with underground wire, and then that's a whole other subject to talk about. So we just want you to know that none of our primary wire is insulated. Our secondary wire is, but in either case, you want to make sure that you don't, if it falls on the ground or gets down into an area where you could touch it or lift something up into it, that you need to contact us. Let us come out and take a look at what's going on there to make sure that it maintains the proper clearance. So that secondary wire should be about 15 feet off from anything going across your yard or your driveway or anything like that. And the primary wire is usually, the main primary wire is usually 20 feet off the ground, and the neutral's at 18 feet. So be careful around that, and just know that that primary wire is not insulated. Thank you.
We have your health coming back from the break.
You're watching News 25. Local coverage you can count on. News 25 is brought to you by Mountain West Lawyer, Injury Attorneys, 727-9500.
Welcome back to News 25. If you tend to turn to food when you're sad or stressed, you're not alone. Dr. David Creel with Cleveland Clinic says emotional eating is very common, but that does not mean it's healthy to do.
Food is accessible, it's legal, it's socially acceptable to do, and people even joke about it. There have been commercials about, when we're upset, we tend to eat. So it's very common, but at the same time, especially for people who might struggle with excess weight, it can be a pretty serious condition as well.
Dr. Creel says emotional eating can cause weight gain, which in turn can put a person at risk for other issues like type 2 diabetes, hypertension, high cholesterol, and heart disease. There are psychological concerns as well. For example, they may experience guilt or shame after emotional eating. So what are some other ways to cope when upset? Dr. Creel says if you cannot solve whatever issue you're dealing with in that moment, consider talking with a friend instead. Other options include doing some deep breathing exercises, going to therapy, or even working out. It's also important to practice self-compassion if you do wind up eating.
What benefit do we have by beating ourselves up? People say, well, if I'm not hard on myself, I'm not going to change this. And actually, the literature supports the opposite. When we're able to show ourselves a bit of grace and self-compassion, we can say, hey, although I'm not happy I did this, I look at some of the factors that maybe led to it, and I can change that in the future.
Dr. Creel says sleep can play a big role with our appetites too. If you're not getting good night's sleep, it could make you hungrier and lead to emotional eating. To help with that, he suggests trying to relax before bed and keeping a consistent bedtime.
News 25 WeatherCam is brought to you by Lerner and Rowe Injury Attorney's Office in Pahrump. In a wreck, need a check? Call 702-877-1500.
Taking a look outside through our Lerner and Rowe weather cam, it looks like the storm clouds are moving on. Mikey has our weather forecast coming up next.
News 25 weather is brought to you by Dairy Council of Nevada. Undeniably delicious, undeniably dairy. Enjoy what's real.
Hi, good evening, Nevada. I'm Mike Ruhan from the Channel 25 Weather Studios, all up and down the Ace Country Radio Network, and to your mobile device at www.kpvm.tv. Fernley saw 51 degrees today, Fallon 50, Carson City 51, Tonopah 45 degrees, but they set this record yesterday. Look at that, 0.54 inches on Monday. That shattered the old record of 0.21 set in 2021. Way to go, Tonopah. Out in Goldfield, 46 degrees, Beatty, 57, Amargosa, you're our hot spot in Nevada at 61. Las Vegas saw 52 degrees, and out in Death Valley, looks like summer at 70 degrees. But here in the paradise of Pahrump, 54 degrees is our current temperature. We had a high of 58 earlier, humidity all the way up to 61%. The sun rose this morning at 6:51. It's set at 5 already, so we got a couple more minutes of daylight. That's exciting. As we go to our low of 37 degrees and humidity at 81%, let's check out all these clouds tomorrow. Let's check them out. Tomorrow, 57, 58 on Thursday. Looks like it's going to get kind of nice on Friday, mostly sunny skies, 58. But if you fast forward to Monday, that's the day I recommend you call in sick from work. 68 degrees. I'll get out of the way. 68 degrees and sunshine on Monday. So, yeah, call in. Back to the desk. Here's David.
Thank you, Mikey. Well, that wraps up this edition of News 25. I'm David Preston. We will see you on the next newscast. Great night.